Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we're actually talking about Russia because Russia's next major problem, outside of obviously invading Ukraine and the whole world hates them for that, is actually their devastated tech sector thanks to their invasion of Ukraine. And this could actually be the long-term death blow to Russia's economy. Here's what's going on. It's coming from the New York Times, and I think this is absolutely interesting, but it's important to talk about. So here's what's going on. By March 22nd, a Russian tech industry trade group estimated that between 50 to 70,000 tech workers in Russia had left the country, and that an additional 70 to 100,000 were soon to follow. Now, they are part of a much larger exodus of workers from Russia, but their departure basically could have more lasting impacts on the Russian economy. Now, the exodus will fundamentally change the Russian tech industry, according to interviews with more than 24 people who are part of this tight-knit community of Russian tech workers around the world, including many who left the country in recent weeks. An industry that basically once saw a rising force basically in the Russian economy is now losing a massive amount of essentially its workforce. It's losing many of the bright young minds that are essentially going to drive Russian tech industries forward, and here we are. Now, this recent exodus, for the record, reverses about 10 to 15 years of this steady momentum that the Russian tech industry has had. And according to Konstantin Sonin, an economist at the University of Chicago's Harris School of Public Policy, said, and I quote, "It's now like the 1990s when whoever was able to move out of the country moved out." Now, tech is at the moment a small part of Russia's economy compared to energy and metal. Now, if you are looking at this, a lot of people have said, and I believe it was John McCain that originally said this, that Russia was basically a giant gas station masquerading as a country, but their tech sector has been growing rapidly. The loss of many young, educated, forward-looking people has economic ramifications for years to come, according to many economists. Now, many workers left this country because obviously they objected to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I have personally, basically talked to individuals in Russia that are against this, even though they are Russian citizens, and they no longer want to live under the Putin regime and feared that they could not speak their minds if they remained. And given all available evidence of shutting down independent media, crackdowns on the population, that is very justifiable. Now, working in tech, which is a rather lucrative industry, these tech workers had the money to flee the country, meaning they were more paid or well better paid than the average Russian citizen, and therefore they had the means to get out. And like other tech workers globally, they could continue to work from anywhere, providing they've got internet and a computer, laptop, etc. Now, others in the tech industry left because their companies simply pulled out. After foreign governments imposed sanctions on Russia and many American and European companies stopped selling products there or barred access to banking and internet, some Russian tech workers did not have the tools they needed to do the work. Companies struggled to pay them, and so they said, you know what? I'm going to go into other parts of Europe or elsewhere and continue this work. And for the most part, they've been welcomed with open arms. Now, some workers for companies based in Russia, and others for companies with headquarters elsewhere, like many startups in the United States and Europe, including many well-funded or founded Russian-born entrepreneurs, were relying on things like software coders, engineers, and other tech workers in Russia to get basically their jobs done. To Russian entrepreneurs living abroad, these workers were a known quantity and they were not as expensive as specialists in Silicon Valley and other parts of the United States, meaning as essentially Russia was developing its burgeoning tech sector, basically employing tech workers was less expensive, but still on average better than the Russian worker. India is going through something similar as well. And so this obviously is a devastating impact. Obviously, Russia invaded Ukraine. Everybody, for the most part, in the world is against this, with few exceptions. And so here we are. As these sanctions get essentially leveled against them, if Russia's expecting we can weather these sanctions and then repair and rebuild, they are losing one of the most critical sectors in economy these days, and that is technology. And if their tech sector goes away and all they are reduced to is, petroleum products, and obviously we have this huge push to move to non-petroleum products, not that petroleum's going away anytime soon, or metals, which the world needs, they are losing something that is probably going to be or was going to be one of the fastest growing sectors in their economy. And if they lose basically the knowledgeable people that will found the new companies, that will run the existing companies, and believe me, gas and metal also needs technology workers as well. And if they're all gone, out of the country working for God knows whoever, that's a huge problem long term for Russia. They are losing their young, they are losing their brightest people. And a lot of people will smile and say, well, good, burn Russia to the ground. And here we are. So I think that's a huge problem that Russia's going to face in the future. Obviously, the sanctions aren't helping, but when you're looking at, let's say, the next 10, 20 years of growth strategically around the world, and you are looking at how countries are growing around the world, they are exploding in tech. China has a massive tech push. India has a massive tech push. The United States has always had a massive tech push. Look at Canada, look at Australia, look at Germany, look at South Africa, et cetera, et cetera. Tech is that burgeoning field, realizing we can't simply rely on selling of natural resources or farming or whatever it is. Tech is here to stay. Tech continues to increase. Tech is basically running our lives. We're all addicted to our phones. And so if Russia basically gets knocked back 20, 30 years, that is the death blow, I think, to their economy. And that is something that they need to consider. And so we may see basically them surrendering, not necessarily in a war, but on the technological front. And that puts them in the Stone Age compared to everybody else. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private. Thanks, everyone.